We're in Genesis chapter 43 and 44 today in our Wonderful Day in the Lord podcast. We're looking at the life of Joseph and his brothers who are returning to Egypt now to get more grain. They'd been there once before. Joseph had sent them back with grain, but it also put their money back in their sacks, and that was it was almost like they were stealing this grain. Now they're in trouble once again. If they go back now, they could be accused of theft. And on top of that, they had to bring their brother Benjamin with them. If they didn't do that, Joseph said he would not give them anything at all. So they're in a real dilemma, but the famine is going on. And we're up to about 2 years into the famine at this point, it would appear. And there's little choice but to go back. They have a great argument in chapter 43, the first part. And this is really a long narrative, so we're working through this quickly. But in the first part of chapter 43, Jacob does not want to send his son, Benjamin. He doesn't want to lose his youngest. He's already lost Joseph. He doesn't want to lose Benjamin, so he's concerned. Verse 14, he finally gives in and says, "May God Almighty grant you compassion in the sight of the man, so that he will release to you the other brother," which is Simeon, "and Benjamin. And as for me, if I'm bereaved of my children, I'm bereaved." There's not any choice. Jacob gives in, sends all of them back to Egypt. Now, when Joseph sees his brother, he is a bit overwhelmed by all of that. But as he brings them in and begins to talk to them, he continues to disguise himself. He still doesn't want them to know who he is, but he's deeply stirred. Verse 30, for example, Joseph hurried out, for he was deeply stirred over his brother, and he sought a place to weep. So now he sees that Benjamin is alive. The brothers have not lied. And this is the first time he's seen his brother in 2 decades. His heart is stirred. He is very emotional. So he hides himself for a while. But he does feed these boys, and he gives them, in verse 34, he gives Benjamin much more food than the others. But nevertheless, he does not reveal who he is. And that's kind of important. Then we go to chapter 44, and they go back now with grain, and once again he puts all their money, verse 1, in their sack. On top of that, he puts a silver cup, his own silver cup, in the mouth of Benjamin. Now this cup, he says, is a cup, verse 5, from which, at least his servant says, from which my Lord drinks, and which he uses for divination. Now, divination was something that God's people were never to do. I don't know that Joseph did that. Joseph did interpret dreams, and so that's probably what the servant here is referring to. But nevertheless, this is a cup that belongs to Joseph. It's in Benjamin's bag. And so when they chase the brothers back down, as Joseph tells them to do, and finds out that they have once again got their money in their sack, and that Benjamin has this cup, which now they presume he stole, everybody's in chaos. What a thing. We have to wonder, why would Joseph put them through all this? Why this anguish to all the brothers? And the brothers, they're guilt-ridden, and they have done wrong to Joseph in the past, but Benjamin had not, and he's the one that's in the worst shape here of all of them. He is going to be put back in prison, perhaps executed for having stolen this cup. So this is a big deal, and we have to wonder why Joseph is doing what he's doing. We know he's testing them to a certain degree, but still we know that he's using deceit here. He's not being straightforward. By the time he saw Benjamin and saw that he truly was alive, he could have at that point revealed himself and been straightforward with what's going on, but he doesn't do that. He uses one deceit after the other. It doesn't seem to be becoming of a man of his godliness. And not only that, but we know that he out and out lied at one point. Verse 15 of chapter 44, "What is this deed that you've done? Do you not know that such a man as I can indeed practice divination?" So he's up and lying to them at this point. He knows that Benjamin stole the cup because he can see into the future, but that's not the case. He did it because he knew, because he put it in there himself, or at least he had his men do that. So he's going to now keep Benjamin behind. But here maybe is the final test. We have Judah goes to bat. Verses 18 to the end of the chapter, he now goes to bat for Benjamin. And Judah is said, "I will take his place. I cannot go home." He says, in verse 33, he says, verse 34, "For how shall I go to my father if the lad is not with me, for fear that I will see the evil that would overtake my father?" Remember, Judah and his brothers had no compassion on Jacob earlier. Now they do. We see a change of heart with these brothers, and Joseph sees it as well. But concerning Joseph, I'm still troubled personally by his deceit and his lying. But we also see that as the book of Psalms tells us, in 103:14 and 78:19, God knows that we are but dust and we are but flesh. So even the very best of the best can sometimes do stupid things and even sinful things. So perhaps Joseph sinned. You can choose that, to determine that yourself. But I certainly do not see this as his finest hour for sure. We'll continue the story of the brothers in chapter 45 tomorrow. We hope you can join us.